And we'll just go as far as we go. You know, we don't need to go too far. It was interesting after having our discussion last week before the service. It was interesting to then use that information with the other group. So we had a real good discussion. So that worked out really good. So 14 years have passed since Jacob's mother Rebekah had sent him to Haran. So it's been 14 years. And the idea was to protect him from his brother Esau, who had vowed to kill him. And during 14 years on the run, Jacob had acquired Laban's daughters, Leah and Rachel, as his wives, along with their servant girls. What? Go ahead.
I just told her hot. I didn't want her.
Oh, yeah.
I refilled it. I didn't want her.
Oh. Zilpah and Bilhah as his concubines. Combined, the 4 women had given him 11 sons and 1 daughter. So during all that time, Jacob had worked for Laban as an indentured servant, exchanging work as a shepherd to pay the bride price for Leah and Rachel, and paid for their room and board. And during that time, old Uncle Laban had changed his arrangement with Jacob 10 times. For every step that Jacob had gotten ahead, it seemed like Laban had dragged him back too. Jacob and his family will head out on their own, leaving Laban and heading back home to Canaan. But before they leave, Jacob will even the score. So the trickiness of Laban, one of the big issues that we're going to see in this next section is the bride price. And we sometimes think of the bride price as being like something that's going to the husband. But actually the bride price was for the security of the daughter who was getting married. Often there would be items of gold or silver or whatever that they would have, and they would keep those. And the idea was that bride, that woman, had something, if something should happen to her husband or whatever, it's like a security thing. Sometimes the money might go to the man as the bride price, but mainly it went to the bride. That was who it was for. So we misunderstand that a lot of times.
I always thought it went to the dad.
Yeah. So, but think about it now. He's been working 14 years, and he has the 2 wives and the children. And I think some of the sheep and the goats you would think might belong to him, but not really, because he had to do the whole striped and black to decide if he had any sheep or goats. So really nothing was his. He had been working all that time and not gotten anything except for the wives. Now where's the wives' price? For the brides, for the women, where's that security?
Yeah, it's gone.
It also isn't anything real or tangible that they actually are going to be able to use. So that becomes kind of a background to what happens next in the story. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
So in 14 years, he had 11 kids?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, he had 3 people that had kids.
4.
Well, Rachel hasn't had kids yet.
I thought she had 1, Joseph.
Has she already had Joseph
Oh,
by the
maybe
time
not.
they leave? Yeah, Joseph was born.
I thought he was there.
So between
3. Who's the third?
you've got
Rachel, Leah.
Rachel,
each had a
Leah,
servant.
and they each had a maidservant.
Oh, did they both give?
Bilhah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I know.
call her Bilhah.
So he has had kids. Genesis 31. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all his wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be there with you. So Jacob recognizes that Laban's attitude's gone sour, and he decides it's time to leave Haran before things get really bad. And Laban was not a happy camper. And remember, if he's been having kids, his kids are starting to get into those teen years. So they're looking around and saying, what's this going to be for us? You know, because you normally you would have an inheritance like from your father, but your father doesn't own anything, that all belongs to him. So God makes it clear, go back to the land. Verse 4, so Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah. He sent word to them to come out to the fields where his flocks were. He said to them, I see that your father's attitude toward me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. Now, why did he send word and have them come out to the flocks?
He's out with the flocks. They're in their tents or wherever their camp is.
So it's kind of like a secret meeting.
Yeah.
It might
Not
be
without the
afraid
ears.
there's mole What do you want to
Somebody
call it?
listening.
Like moles? And-
Yeah, well, someone could just overhear or listen or hear their discussion, so he
Yeah,
calls them.
Laban might have,
Yeah, and it could
Fine.
just be the kids that hear it or whatever. It's
Right.
one of those things of private conversation.
yeah,
Verse 6, you know that I've worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said the speckled ones will be your wages, then all the flocks gave birth to speckled young. And if he said the streaked ones will be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and has given them to me. So that's an interesting perspective from Jacob, right? And why is that important for him to make that point with the ladies?
To
so
get
that they
them to
know that
understand.
God's with him.
Yeah,
He's not stealing from their father. He's
Right.
not, and this is going to look that way. And Laban may even cast it that way. But just between us, just so you know, let's have this truth between us.
and they realize their dad doesn't have anything to give them.
Right, right. In breeding season, I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats mating with the flock were streaked, speckled, or spotted. The angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, I answered, here I am. And he said, look up and see that all the male goats mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, or spotted, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native land. Now that's kind of interesting. Perhaps God's angel did speak to Jacob and give him the strategy of streaked, speckled, spotted lambs. Or maybe this is just Jacob's manipulative way of convincing Rachel and Leah to leave their father and their home and, move along. God told me to do it, kind of a thing. What do you think?
It could be either way. Maybe he's getting insight into who God really is, and God has been with him and caused all of this, or he's been.
Well, did he
Jacob.
really have a dream or not,
Yeah.
So in any case, Jacob and his family hit the road, and they're better to do it and fast. They better do it quick. But that wouldn't cost Leah and Rachel their inheritance if they simply go away. Wouldn't that cost their inheritance if they just go away?
I didn't know women got inherited.
Well, the bride price was supposed to be theirs. So where was their part? So there's this issue still hanging. What's the bride price? If we stay, maybe eventually we get something. If we, they're looking for their security. So, you can think of women in that day. What if the husband dies?
Yeah,
They've got all these kids, they're older. It'd be hard to marry again. It's really a problem for them. They have no real security.
well, that's what the kids were supposed to be part of their security too.
Yeah.
To help
So,
take care.
verse 14, then Rachel and Leah replied, do we still have any share in the inheritance of our father's estate? Does he not regard us as foreigners? Not only has he sold us, but he has used up what was paid for us. Surely all the wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you. Then Jacob put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove all his livestock ahead of him, along with all the goods he had accumulated in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. So, unlike Isaac, whose father Abraham provided a huge bride price for Rebekah in the form of 10 camels loaded down with expensive gifts, that's the bride price. Jacob did not have a bride price for either Rachel or Leah. Instead, Jacob provided 7 years of hard labor for each of them. The bride price does not purchase the girl from the family, rather it belongs to the girl herself. In latter times, this ketubah ensured the wife and her children's financial survival if her husband should die or divorce her. In the case of Laban, he benefited from Jacob's 14 years of labor by having greatly increased herds and flocks, but Leah and Rachel did not. If they leave home, they leave empty-handed, unless Laban chooses to give them a portion of what Jacob's labor had earned. So we can't be sure, but he won't. Verse 19, when Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household gods.
See, I was always under the impression that when Abraham sent his servant to get Rebekah, that they were a godly people. Evidently, they were idol worshipers. They were not godly people.
Often the women would have their own things going on too. So that's kind of, it's a tricky thing. But we just, what was the verses we just finished reading about? The bride price. So if Laban had idols in his house, they were probably made of gold or silver, right?
So she's going to steal.
So we don't really know that it's anything about faith or belief, but here's something of value that she could take, and she would justify it by saying it's the bride price, that she didn't pay. And it's sad to think that Laban had idols in his household, but it was common to the people at that time, and God has not made his presence known in the as much as he's going to in the future. And they had some really mixed up stuff. I mean, we don't even have the law or the covenant or so there's no boundaries, and they just go by word of mouth from one generation to the next. You can see how it gets messed up. So that's why they're going to be so happy to have the law that specifies things. Of course, that goes off the rails in the future, but still, at least it gave them guidance on what was pleasing to God and what was not. Anyway, verse 22, on the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. Taking his relatives with him, he pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream at night and said to him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." I wonder how that was said to him. I wonder if it was, "Be careful not to," I thought it was, "You better shut up." And I wonder how that conversation actually went.
Well, I wonder what Laban thought.
Yeah.
If
So
somehow
Jacob
God's-
deceived Laban by not telling him he was going to leave.
Right.
Jacob and his family take a midnight move, packing up their stuff and leaving unannounced in the dead of night. Rachel, knowing that she's not going to get anything from her father, steals Laban's household images. And this is a polytheistic culture. And we have no reason to believe that Rachel or Leah identify with any way with God, Jacob's God. To them, that's Jacob's God, and these are ours. That could be, we don't know.
Yeah.
They have their own gods. They are represented by Laban's idols. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Here's the place they went to. So they were in Haran, and they went to the hill country of Gilead, so quite a bit south. The distance from Haran to Gilead is over 300 miles. So when it says, when the numbers 7 or 3 are used in this case, we think that it's symbolic, because the distance is much more than 7 or 3. It takes 7 days or 3 days. It would take much more to go that distance. And so 3 means they got there quick, and 7 means it took a long time. That would be a more clear understanding, because the actual miles from one place to the other is 300 miles, over 300 miles. So if you're going to go 300 miles, it's going to take you more than
3
7 days.
Yeah.
It's going to take you longer.
Especially with herds,
Pardon?
with herds of animals.
Oh yeah,
Well, that's why he was able to catch up with him.
right.
Is because he had all of his herds and the little kids and
Yeah.
everything.
And so when it says, 7 and 3 here, we just need to recognize that it's probably not actually 7 days or 3 days. It's a matter of distance, a long way or a shorter way. So, verse 25, Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead when Laban overtook him, and Laban and his relatives camped there too. That must have been weird, to chase them and then set up camp beside them. Then Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? You've deceived me, and you've carried off my daughters like captives in war. Why did you run off secretly and deceive me?" Poor innocent Laban.
Yeah.
"Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing to the music of timbrels and harps? You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. You have done a foolish thing. I have the power to harm you. But last night the God of your father said to me, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' So now you have gone off because you longed to return to your father's household. But why did you steal my gods?" So Laban's telling Jacob that Jacob carried off his daughters as prisoners, and that kind of has an ominous overtone, like they're going to go to war between each other, And it's not lost on Jacob that Laban is leading a band of armed men, and Laban is accusing Jacob of theft. So not only of his daughters, but of his household property. But the idea of Laban, the master of deception, with a long history of fleeing Jacob, sending Jacob and his family off with joyful singing to the sound of tambourines and harps, that's not quite believable. Like that's what it would happen. So this is a dangerous spot he's in. So Jacob looks at Laban's armed men and replies kind of cautiously. Listen to his cautious reply. Jacob answered Laban, I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find anyone who has your gods, that person shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, see for yourself whether there is anything of yours here with me, and if so, take it. Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods.
Who do you think would have stolen it?
He probably didn't believe that she had them. I don't know. So Jacob obviously doesn't know it. Now Jacob has vowed that if anything has been stolen from Laban, the thief will die. So unwise. So it's a good thing we're not like that, right? We never do that, right? Well, so Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two female servants, but he found nothing. After he came out of Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them inside her camel's saddle and was sitting on them. Laban searched through everything in the tent but found nothing. Rachel said to her father, Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. I'm having my period. So he searched but could not find the household gods. So it was very clever of Rachel. It's not codified in the Mosaic law, but the practice was that when a woman has a flow of blood from her body, she shall be in a state of menstrual uncleanness for 7 days. Anything on which she lies or sits during her menstrual period shall be unclean, whether an object is on the bed or on something she sat upon. When the person touches it, that person will be unclean until evening. That's in Leviticus 15. Mm-hmm. So at the time that she's saying this, it's not like part of the law, but it is the practice. It would be something that they would understand. So Jacob, not knowing anything about Rachel's deceptions, is outraged at Laban's accusations. Can you just imagine him being outraged at Laban with as deceptive as he's been, right? Jacob was angry and took Laban to task. What is my crime? He asked Laban. How have I wronged you that you hunt me down? Now that you have searched through all my goods, what have you found that belongs to your household? Put it here in front of your relatives and mine, and let me judge between the two of us. I have been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten rams from your flocks. I did not bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself, and you demanded payment from me for whatever was stolen by day or night. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. It was like this for the 20 years I was in your household. I worked for you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac have not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night he rebuked you. It sounds like that's been building up for a long time, that Jacob had a few words to say, and he said them. Laban answered Jacob, the women are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about the children they have borne? Come now, let's make a covenant, you and I, and let it serve as a witness between us. So while Jacob's trying to make it sound like he should be able to get away, Laban's making the point, no, this is our family. I'm part of this family too. So that's kind of a good argument. So he's stubbornly refusing to give an inch on his legal prerogatives. But then he concedes, realizing there's not really anything he can do about it. He also doesn't want to make it so that he's completely estranged from the family forever. You know, they're getting to that point where it's going to be, I'll never want to see you again kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And he's got all these children and family and flocks. He wants to still be connected with the people.
He might want to see what he can get out of them later.
True, he probably will. But I bet a lot of it was, this is my family, all my family's here. They felt a pride and a sense of, you know, that's part of his family. So I think there's a lot of that too. I mean, I do believe he's conniving, but he had enough flocks and herds to support himself. I think he really didn't want the family to be gone from him. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. He said to his relatives, "Gather some stones." So they took stones and piled them in a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jegar Shadutha, and Jacob called it Galid, which both mean witness heap. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." That is why it was called Galid. It was also called Mizpah because he said, "May the Lord keep watch between you and me, and when we are away from each other." So 20 years of wrestling, there's finally peace between Jacob and Laban. The hills of Gilead mark the boundary between the two of them, sealed by a covenant and marked by a sacred pillar. Jacob won't go north of it, and Laban won't go south of it. In many Christian denominations, the Old King James rendering of the agreement between Jacob and Laban is often used as a final benediction or blessing. You know it? May the Lord watch between me and thee while we are absent from one another. I've heard that before in congregations. They'll say that at the end of the congregation, after the end of the service. It seems like a sweet blessing, but actually it's an agreement between two crooks. May the Lord watch my back when I can't see you. Is that kind?
Or you stay out of my turf and I'll stay out of your turf.
Right. So the so-called Mizpah benediction in context is in fact a denunciation or a curse. So it's kind of funny that people use it.
I'm not so sure I want to say that.
I know. I like the way the guy said this. It's really agreement between two crooks.
Yeah.
May the Lord watch my back when I can't see you. I think that fits those two guys. Anyway, if you mistreat my daughters, or if you take my wives besides my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me. Laban also said to Jacob, "Here is this heap, and here is this pillar I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not go past this heap nor to your side to harm you, that you will not go past this heap and pillar to my side to harm me. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us." So that's the boundary markers between Laban's and Jacob's
So
territory.
they can go visit each other, but they can't do any.
No
Business on each other's land, yeah. So Jacob took an oath in the name of the fear of his father Isaac. Yeah, are you really fearful of Isaac? I don't know.
He's dead, isn't he?
Yeah, he's dead.
Well, they
and-
capitalized fear, so it's
Yeah.
like the fear of Isaac's God.
Yeah. He offered a sacrifice there in the hill country and invited his relatives to a meal. After they had eaten, they spent the night there. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. So there's two important aspects of the covenant-making process. Offer a sacrifice and invite relatives to a meal along with those whom have entered into the covenant. So the common meal is an indicated mutual acceptance, and it's witnessed by all those who gathered for the meal. We do the same thing with communion. Communion is a similar thing where you're gathering together, you're sharing in the symbolism, and there's a unity in that, a support with that you're together, not enemies of one another. What goes around comes around, as the old saying goes. From birth, Jacob was a heel grabber, a deceiver who cheated his father, his brother, his uncle, and pretty much everyone he came into contact with. Even though 20 years had passed, Jacob's twin brother Esau had never forgotten what Jacob had done to him. Now the chickens are flying home to roost. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. What's the relationship there? They haven't been writing or contacting one another.
Because how did he know where he was?
Yeah, it's been 14 years plus 6. It's been 20 years.
They're probably talking to people along the way, found out where he was at, and he probably just doesn't want to.
Well, the mother's house often didn't change, so he might have even sent it to the house of his mom.
Yeah.
And he probably just didn't want to
That might have been
testing the water, so to speak, or
Well,
whatever.
that's what he's doing here. He says he was met, let's see, he sent messengers, instructed them, this is what you are to say to my lord Esau, small ll. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this message to my lord that I may find favor with you. So Jacob had just left the region of hostile Laban and is about to enter the region of hostile Esau. He was met by the angels of God, whom he had seen at Bethel when he was fleeing from Esau to go to Laban. Thus God was with Jacob, as he had promised. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. That was in 31 verse 3. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. So God is promising that. That's probably part of what gives Jacob at least his initial courage. He gets chicken later. So Jacob knew Esau would hear he was coming back, because he's coming with this huge entourage, so the rumors are going to fly. So he sent messengers up ahead to make sure he knew he was coming in peace. When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, we went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him. Does that seem like a good sign?
That's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. Jacob had tricked Esau out of this position as firstborn, and he had stolen Esau's blessing. Now he refers to Esau as Lord and himself as Esau's servant. Verse 7. In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. So he knows that some things may go bad with Esau. So who's he going to put in the front?
He's going to put the concubine or the maidservants in front.
Yeah, the ones he has left the least connection to, right? And at the end will be his favored family and friends. So yeah, and himself. Yeah, and he's in the very back too. And Esau has 400 armed men with him. Okay, verse 9. Then Jacob prayed. Good
Jacob
thinking.
prayed.
Good thinking, Jacob. Praying now would be good. O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. Notice it's a capital L, Lord. Verse 10, I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the land of my brother Esau, for I'm afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted. So the story is pairing two opposites. You've got twin brothers who struggle over a position and blessing that cannot be divided, two sisters who struggle over a husband's love, flocks divided into single-colored and multicolored animals, and Jacob now divides his family into two, Leah and her possessions, and Rachel and hers. The binary division is a key structural element in the story, as well as the understanding of the characters of the story. All the characters are opposites. I don't know if I agree with that, because I don't know that Esau and Jacob are truly opposite. They both seem kind of conniving to me.
How is Esau conniving?
Well, Esau is more, he's non-spiritual. He didn't have any desire to deal with his dad's spiritual side and get to know God.
He's just
That's
rash.
why.
How did Isaac, or how did the other one?
Well, he was willing to take the covenant. He wanted the covenant blessing. By not wanting the covenant blessing, it's like you're denying your spiritual
He was
background.
just, I think he was just talking, and he was hungry, wanted to eat.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. You know, Jacob's words are
What-
desperate, kind of like a prayer you would make in a foxhole in a battle, right? Lord, if you get me out of this mess,
Yeah.
I'll do anything. Right?
He wasn't
Basically.
spiritual, show any spirituality at all until he left and went over there, and then God started talking to him. He was wrestled with the angel, and
We're gonna see
God
that
came
next.
to him. He didn't go to God.
He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau: 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds." So that's 550 animals separated into groups, each led by Jacob's servants. So if you add up those, the 220 goats, 220 sheep, 30 camels, 50 cattle, 30 donkeys, what a sight, right? And imagine Esau looking ahead and seeing these animals coming toward him, wave after wave after wave. That would make an impression, right? If you saw it once, you'd say, boy, that's a lot of animals. Then when you see it like in pieces, you're going, boy, well, look at all the, it seems even more, even greater. He instructed the one in the lead, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, who do you belong to, and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you? Then you are to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent by my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us." He also instructed the second, the third, and all the others who followed the herds, "You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me." So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. So do you think it might have become somewhat comical to Esau, from Esau's perspective? I mean, when you first see the first row, and then you see just behind them the next, and each servant is saying the same thing, what do you think? Do you think he's smiling by the time, or is he scowling?
You know what, brother is doing his typical thing, hiding in the back with the women.
I can imagine starting out with a scowl, and by the end, smiling like my stupid brother, right? I could see how that would delete the anger a little bit, and kind of cushion it a little bit, yeah. That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jacob River. There it is. The Jacob River begins near Rabbah. It flows north and then west down to the Jordan River. So it flows north and then west. Here's the picture, where I'm showing you this on purpose because later it describes Jacob's movements and where he moves. So Esau is traveling north from Edom toward Jacob and his family. Jacob crosses with his family, there's the Jabbok River, and leaves them south of Jabbok River. Then Jacob goes back over the river to where you see the red dot. So he's going to cross with his family, and then he is going to go back.
That area of Gilead is where the shepherd people of the half tribe of Manasseh and Dan settled too.
Mm-hmm. So why is Jacob going back?
Putting the river between him and his brother, like he got a head start.
Jacob and the family are all moving south. When Jacob moves his family across the river, he's placing all those people between him and Esau. And then he backs up even further over the river.
And he's got the hill country behind him to run into.
Is he chicken or cunning?
Both.
I know. I kind of wondering about this. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man.
Okay.
Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." You gotta quit wrestling like that.
Yeah.
I know.
But Jacob
I kinda
replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So wrestling is a dominant theme throughout Jacob's story. Jacob wrestled with Esau in the womb, grabbing and tugging at his feet, at his heel. He wrestled away Esau's birthright and blessing. He wrestled the stone away from the well in Haran. And he spent 20 years wrestling with Laban. Wrestling meaning pulling people back, pushing people aside, and climbing over them. Comprises the very core of who Jacob is. He's always wrestling things around. This is a strange, haunting scene, a kind of nightmare. It has deeper meaning. Jacob wrestles with God, but more than that, he's wrestling with himself. Who is he going to be? A man like Laban? Who should he be? He carries God's promise. Who should he be? He has been a conniver and deceitful. He's wrestling with himself. The symbolism is he's wrestling with himself. A lot of times we say he's wrestling with God, but it's about wrestling with what God expects of him, is asking him to do. It's that inner turmoil that he has. Significantly, Jacob's opponent struck Jacob's hip at its socket. As Robert Alter points out, struck, as much translates, reads, is inaccurate. The grammatical form always means to touch or to touch lightly, a sort of magical maiming. Like, it isn't like the guy wrenched his hip, but it's like he touched the hip and it was wrenched. And that's this fantastic kind of scene, like a dream-like sequence as happens in his dream. Jacob's name literally means crooked, or metaphorically deceiver. It's now changed to Israel, meaning he who strives for or wrestles with God. He who strives for God or wrestles with God. Recall that God changes Abram's name to Abraham, Sarai to Sarah. Name changes that reflect a redefined character, a newly formed identity. For Jacob, the wrestling match marks such a profound change in character. So what's the change?
It comes and goes.
The change would be he's striving for God, that he wants to do what God has in mind. He's striving to do the right thing. He's not always successful.
No.
Sometimes he's still wrestling with God. Right?
Sometimes he's a Jacob and sometimes he's an Israel.
Yeah. And Israel as a nation, have they not been
Have
the
they
same?
not wrestled?
Wrestled with God, with what God has asked for them to do or told them to do. Mm-hmm. That's true, but oddly, when God changes Abram's and Sarah's names, they are ever afterward called Abraham and Sarah. That's not so with Jacob. It seems to me that Jacob continues to struggle with who he is. Sometimes Jacob, sometimes Israel. For Jacob, his character development seems an ongoing process, not the miraculous result of a moment. Is that true for us?
Yeah, very true.
When we recognize who we are and we are touched by God, forgiven, we change, but it's more that we begin to change. We continue to improve. We learn and grow, and we become who God intends for us to be. It starts with that first touch, and that changes us, it marks us. But we step into the family of God, and then we strive to live a life worth the calling He has received. Throughout our lives, we struggle to learn and grow and become better, closer to God, closer to what God intends for us. We will slip back sometimes 3 steps forward and 1 step back. Jacob is wrestling with himself. A lot of people spend a lot of time arguing if it was an angel, if it was God himself. But what the commentator, I think, is accurate in saying he's wrestling with himself. Is he going to do this or not do this? Is he going to wrestle with God, or is he going to do what God has told him to do?
Yeah, that's what David Guzik says too. And then he uses a lot of what Spurgeon previously wrote. So those two kind of agreed on the same thing.
Yeah. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. I think that's kind of interesting. I didn't know that. For the first time, Jacob's descendants are called Israelites. This is linking all future generations, Jewish generations, to Jacob's transformation. Jacob still needs to face Esau with his 400 armed men ready for battle. Verse
Bravely
1.
marches back.
31. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. He put the female servants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Now, that was not Esau's intention when he set out with 400 men. But the parade was hilarious. That had to be hilarious. It seems like all the women and children in the parade of animals changed his mood. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. "Who are these with you?" asked. Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. So I wonder if Esau was weeping over the lost years, all those years that they could have been family together, if Jacob hadn't had his shenanigans. Esau asked, "What's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I met? To find favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." "No, please," said Jacob. "If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept the present that was brought to you. For God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted.
That acceptance by Esau is a big thing. Because if he hadn't said, "Oh, I really don't need it," that means he really didn't accept Jacob back as his brother.
Right, absolutely right. It's nice that they get reconciled. But that's just the way the story turned out. God has worked in Jacob's heart. Esau has forgiven Jacob, and all is well. Esau has certainly forgiven Jacob, addressing him affectionately as my brother. Jacob, however, continues being deferential, calling Esau my lord. He's wary, not yet ready to trust Esau like a brother, right? So there's a little bit of, while that seems like a respectful thing, it's also a separation thing, because why not like family? Why not pull him in like a brother? What's more, when Jacob insists that Esau accepts the gifts Jacob has sent, the 550 animals, Esau says, "I have plenty, my brother. You should keep what is yours." But Jacob replies, "God has been generous to me, and I have everything." He doesn't say an abundance. It says, "I have everything."
Everything I need.
And Robert Alter notes the nuance is important, for Jacob is implicitly reminding Esau that he, Jacob, has the rights of firstborn, along with their father's blessing. Jacob, in fact, has everything. So some say that's a little bit of a dig to make that point. I have everything, I'm not going to ask anything of you because I already have everything, even what I took from you. I don't know if I really agree with that. But anyway. Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way. I'll accompany you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant, while I move along slowly at the pace of the flocks and herds before me, and the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir." Esau said, "Then let me leave some of my men with you." "But why do that?" Jacob asked. "Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord." Why would he want to leave men with him?
Because he's not gonna go back to where his Esau is.
He's tracking him, right? He's saying, "I'll keep track of you." So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. Now, is that what he said he was going to do?
That's not what God told him to do. God
Esau
told him-
offers to escort Jacob to Seir, Esau's town in Edom, between the southern Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba. Jacob makes the excuse that because of the young animals and the children, he will follow slowly, meeting him in Seir. But Jacob doesn't go to Seir. He breaks camp and heads north for Succoth, where he settles and builds a home. That Seir is where he said he was going, and Succoth is where he went.
Well,
Because
Succoth is
he's
right
Succoth.
back up where he was to begin with.
And he built a place there.
Good place for him.
So Esau, genuinely forgiving Jacob, reaches home and prepares a great celebration for his long estranged brother. like for that of the return of the prodigal son, you know, getting everything all set up for them. And then Jacob and family never shows up. The fatted calf is slaughtered, all the guests arrive, and Esau has his heart broken by Jacob again. Remember, Jacob had 11 sons and one daughter, Dinah. So that's probably, let's see if we can get to the next part. Genesis 34. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem saw, son of Hamor of the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." So did he rape her? This story is often called the rape of Dinah. But Jacob's daughter, the traditional title is misleading. The story is not about forcible rape. It's about the patriarchal family in the biblical Near East living as foreigners in a land not their own, and about a young woman's position in that family. It would be a misreading to call it rape. There's two really good sources. Have you ever read The Red Tent or The Dinah Affair? They're two books that talk about this culture between men and women and how they get married and who's set with who and what they consider to be the great offense. And it's an honor-shame culture. So Dinah, by having an interest in the men of that local area, liked one of the boys there. It wasn't that he raped her. It's that she liked and went over to his house and was at his place. But she didn't necessarily have intercourse with him. And so it's this honor-shame thing that it wasn't the right way. The fathers are supposed to arrange that. You know, it's supposed to have, there's a process for this. So as Tivia Freeman-McKinsky observes, every word here is fraught with implications for the biblical read Israel. First, Dinah is the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob. She is the daughter of a full-status wife, not the daughter of a slave woman or a concubine. That would make a big difference in this culture. As a legitimate daughter of Jacob and full sister to her brothers, her position in the family is honorable and secure. The opening words of the story, "Out went Dinah to see the girls of the land," suggest that Dinah stepped beyond the boundaries drawn by her time and culture. Young women did not go out except to perform family chores. But who's in her house? She's got 11 brothers. There's 11 brothers in Dinah. Gee, I wonder why she wanted to go visit the girls. You know? So young women did not go out except to perform family chores such as drawing water or shepherding flocks. And a young woman certainly did not go out while living in a land not their own. But out went Dinah to see the girls of the land. Dinah is not running away, nor is she looking for sexual adventure. Translating the phrase "to visit" as if she were having tea with her friends is misleading as well. Dinah is simply curious about the girls of the land of the Hivites, which, as we know, is disreputable. Rebekah loathed Esau's wives, Judith the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath the daughter of Elon the Hivite, for both were descendants of the cursed line of Ham and his son Canaan. In a patriarchal culture, a daughter going out, leaving the protection and control of her family, not only leaves the daughter vulnerable as a potential victim, but also leaves her family vulnerable, for if she does something dishonorable or something dishonorable is done to her, it's a sign that her father cannot control or protect his daughter. And that brings profound dishonor on the entire family. So this is not about right and wrong, it's about honor and shame.
And they still do that, don't they?
Even today, in the more conservative regions of the Middle East, daughters are strictly forbidden to go out except for specific occasions and only when accompanied by a male relative, a husband or brother. A woman who does go out alone is viewed as a gadabout. That term is used 143 times. There are 143 terms that have to do with streetwalker, prostitute, or common whore. So Dinah does go out alone to see the girls of the land. And what happens is a patriarchal father's worst nightmare. She sees a boy. We're told that Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her. He took her and lay with her and degraded her. Notice we are not told clearly that Shechem raped. Dinah, we're told that, raped Dinah. We're told that that he degraded
Shechem
her
degraded her.
as a serious cultural blunder that disgraced both her and her family. As Tikva Fari Kinsky insightfully observes, this story piles ambiguity upon enigma by gapping and leaving unsaid vital elements. Once again, we encounter our now familiar ambiguity and narrative gaps. Indeed, we're told that Shechem was in love with Dinah and that he wanted to marry her. We're missing a lot in the story here. How did Shechem approach Dinah? Did he speak to her? Did she speak to him? Did he take her away by force? Did he court her like Prince Charming? And what about Dinah? Did she willingly consent to Shechem's advance, or did she say no and struggle to defend herself? Was she love-struck and happy, or was she seduced? Was she caught up in the moment, or was she assaulted and raped? We can't tell by the passage. When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father, Hamor, went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done.
He had done an outrageous thing in Israel. They're calling like the land there Israel now, and not recognizing they're in the line of land of the Hivites.
Did they,
And the mixing of the cultures is not going too smooth.
Yeah.
Is this the one where they talk them into getting circumcised and they go over and kill
That's
them?
the one.
Shechem committed an outrage by lying with Jacob's daughter. Notice that nothing is said about forcible rape. The outrage is that Shechem had sexual intercourse with Dinah outside of the proper patriarchal conventions, degrading both Dinah and her family. So, was Dinah raped? The fact is, we don't know, and we are not going to know. Dinah disappears from the story after the opening lines, for the story is not about her, but about her family and its relationship with outsiders as strangers in a strange land. So on with the story. Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as wife. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife." So they were willing to make this work out. Shechem's father Hamor certainly makes a reasonable offer, and Shechem himself seems genuinely to love Dinah. Both are going to great lengths to right what Jacob and his sons perceive as a grievous wrong. The dog says, "I don't think it's going to work." Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's son replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for yourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go." We've been down this circumcision road before. God gave circumcision to Abraham as a sign of the covenant, although it was commonplace in other cultures such as Egypt, but for different reasons. Here, circumcision has nothing to do with the covenant. It sure doesn't. The mouse says it sure doesn't. It has to do with deception, a common trait, it seems, in Jacob's household. Jacob, his son, spoke with guile or deceit, the same word used for Jacob stealing Esau's blessing and Laban's switching brides. So it looks like the trait has passed down through the generations.
That's the example they had.
Yeah. Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored of all his families, lost no time in doing what they said because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of the city. "These men are friendly toward us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? Let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us. But what's the problem with the symbol of circumcision?
It's for the covenant, and they're not in the covenant.
And that's not the way even the Jewish people are presenting to them to be a part of the
No.
covenant.
Well, they never planned it to be. They
No.
planned it to
Get 'em.
take
That's why-
advantage of them.
That's why so.
All the
acceptable.
men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all the men were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the house. Now, how noble does that seem? God must have been so frustrated.
For him, it seems pretty noble.
Now that's intriguing. After slaughtering Hamor and Shechem took Dinah from Shechem's house.
Yeah.
Was she there voluntarily? As Sternberg shrewdly suggests, had Shechem taken her captive? That's a very different reading than we've been doing, enabled by the narrative ambiguity and gap. You can fill in, you can make it go a lot of different ways. Why was she captive in his house, or had she just chosen to go and be his wife? Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." But they replied, Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? Oh my, it seems to me that Jacob is